Don't change that dial. It's time for your go-to source for all things entertainment and caffeinated. Now give it up and welcome to the stage, Eva and DJ!
I'm DJ Blokzyl,
And I'm Eva Crowe.
and this is the Inks Lattes podcast, where we are spilling the ink and dishing out drinks. We're both members of the Creative Coffee Cafe Discord network, an amazing place where creatives can come together, chill, bounce ideas, and get support from their fellow creatives. It's an awesome community, and today we're going to feature work from some of our incredibly talented members.
So, we've got a really exciting showcase for you all today. Our very own Chris Corvan is set to release his first book, Shadow, Shiver, Silence, a collection. Pre orders are available now on Amazon, with the book officially releasing on July 26, 2024. For years, the dark recesses of Corvin's mind have been home to many voices of monsters, mysteries, and macabre musings. Now, these restless spirits have found their way into a collection that defies genre conventions and dives headfirst into the murky waters of horror, suspense, and the unknown.
All links will be listed in the description, so don't forget to check those out.
Yeah, and we're super proud of you, Chris. And I know that you told us to showcase someone else from the group, but we didn't listen. So you deserve recognition for your accomplishments, just like the rest of us do. So let us shout about your book, and don't you dare cut this out when you're editing.
Yes, please leave this in. Let us tout you here, man. But moving on, just a quick reminder about some of other great CCC related things. Luna Wolf Wyoming Designs has all kinds of beautiful tumblers, mugs, and stemless wine tumblers. They offer pre-made designs and also accept custom orders. Owner and creator Vicky has put out a special dripping creativity tumbler that's amazing, and 15% of the sales on those go back into the Creative Coffee Cafe.
And don't forget to visit the Bewitchery, a small online shop that offers candles, spell kits, jewelry, fragrances, and lots of other great witchy things.
As well, Chris Corban and Sarah Burton will be hosting a special live stream charity event on June 29th, 2024 at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Or if you're on the East Coast like us, that'd be 5 p.m. The goal is to raise funds for the Trevor Project, an incredible organization dedicated to providing crisis intervention and suicide prevention service to LGBTQ plus youth. This is going to be an epic event featuring all sorts of amazing creatives and advocates for the LGBTQ plus community. If you or someone you know wants to get involved, there's still time to reach out via the Creative Coffee Cafe Threads page or through Instagram DMs.
And Justin at the DM's Guide is still open for TTRPG map making commissions. You can DM him on Instagram at the DM's Guide or reach out to him via his website. Again, all the links can be found in the description. And we're going to move on now to our topic of the week. In honor of Pride Month, we're going to talk about the importance of LGBTQ plus representation in the media. As a cis straight female, um, I think it's incredibly important to have um, LGBTQ plus representation because it's one of those things where like straight representation is everywhere, right? It's the old argument that
Yeah, exactly. We show the whole idea about pride is to like to reveal like to show these things to represent them because historically they've been suppressed. They don't have like they've been attacked. They've been all these things done to them that we need to have this kind of representation because that's how we normalize this. We normalize it and it just becomes eventually we don't where they don't have to. It'd be nice for them to not have to like representation just everywhere, right?
right. And a lot of people, just in general, generally speaking, people are afraid of or threatened by what they don't understand, right? Just generally speaking. And having that representation, it not only helps those people in the community feel seen and understood, but it also helps people that want to be allies and people that want to understand and be supportive to do so and learn how to do those things. This is such a such a goofy, like it feels like such a goofy example, but I don't know if you've ever watched the show Queer Eye. It's a fantastic show.
I haven't watched it. No, I do know about it though.
It's so good. It is like the most wholesome show on television. I am obsessed with it. It is streaming on Netflix, just in case anybody
Mhm.
wants to check it out. Um, but that show is a perfect kind of example. And it was on back in the day. It was on, I think, in the 90s, I believe it started. And this is like a whole new kind of revamped version of Queer Eye. But it's five men that are in the LGBTQ plus community. They all identify differently, all of those things. But they and nowadays it's not just straight men that they're helping and working with. It used to be that way. But they basically help people, they give them makeovers, physical makeovers, lifestyle makeovers. And it's such a great show because it showcases people that wouldn't normally be exposed to people in that community being exposed to LGBTQ plus. And it is seriously the most wholesome show. It is so good. And
I love wholesome stuff like that too. Really,
yeah.
like a wholesome. I'm the kind of person where I can't watch something like Seinfeld because it's too cringe for
Mm-hmm.
me in that kind
Mm-hmm.
of sense. Whereas like I like wholesome stuff like that, like and not in like the Hallmark kind of wholesome, but like
Right.
actually like real wholesome.
Right. And like Queer Eye is kind of the perfect like representation of that because like I said, it's five men that are in the LGBTQ plus community, but um they basically someone gets nominated, they go and they meet this person, and it used to be back in the day that it was just like straight, very straight white men, or not white men, very straight men that they were helping. And now they do it with women. They help people that are in the community. But basically, you get to see people kind of react to them, and it's very interesting. And like Jonathan is one of the guys on the show. He is one that a lot of people were like, wow, you're an exciting dude. You're a lot, but they get through to people in such a wholesome way. And you just realize like what amazing people they are, and like it's just the best show. I'm sorry, I can talk about Queer Eye forever and I won't. But but yeah,
No,
like what
I'm just looking at it now. Like it came out. I was gonna say I thought it came out. It was 2003. The original one came out
was
because
it
I thought I did
2000s? Yeah.
remember that it was in 2000. Yeah, it was like the early start in the early 2000s. Then that because I do remember around that time. Like I remember hearing about the show because it became like a huge hit, right?
Right.
And like the funny thing is like I never ended up watching it because I was still I was like raised like in like kind of like relatively conservative religion. So
Hmm.
that kind of thing, like I was never my thing. Like I never really like.
You weren't exposed to
It
that kind of
wasn't that
thing
I
in your
was.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's exactly it is. I was never exposed to it. In fact, like I was going to mention, the first exposure I really had to the community and anything like in as far as media is concerned that I remember was
Hmm.
the show Ellen.
Mm-hmm.
And then because it was a huge deal, like her character was the very first star of a show that came out
Hmm.
as gay.
Hmm.
And it was a huge deal. Like I remember it being this huge deal about Ellen like coming out as gay and being the
Right.
first like star of a show to come out as gay. And that was my first real like kind of exposure to that community. And although the funny thing though, I remember I have this vague memory of in the 90s hearing about like trans and trans people and stuff like that and gender um what's the phrase for it, like changing genders and
Hmm.
stuff like that. And it's funny, like I just have this memory of like hearing about this on the radio, I think it was, and they were talking about it, and I remember thinking like, huh, that's interesting. I never realized people could do that. Like,
Hmm.
because I was just like a teenager then. I didn't know about a lot of this. I'd never been exposed to it. So having that representation of Ellen and being like, oh, this is like a thing. Is it supposed to be normal? I didn't know. To me, and especially being raised in religion, like it wasn't something that you were supposed to acknowledge, right?
Hmm.
And so like I never like was against the thing. It's more just I didn't know. So
Right.
having that exposure, I think where you mentioned about how it's great for people and how you don't know, that's where I think the representation is really important too. For people that don't know about it, so that they can learn, like, hey, yeah, they're just people. They're
Right.
people just like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason to like hate on them or anything. They're people too.
Right. And you think about like all the different people in the last, 30, 40, God, probably 30, 40 years now that have like openly come out as gay or queer or whatever, um, like people like Freddie Mercury. You know what I mean? Like Freddie Mercury was a huge pioneer for the LGBTQ plus community, especially and people like and for those of you that
Elton
may not
John.
know, yeah, I was gonna say Freddie Mercury's from Queen, if anyone doesn't know. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to remember
I
my
think
age.
even some of our, I mean, yeah, I know, I'm pretty sure even some younger people will know who Freddie
Yeah,
Mercury is.
yeah, I would
So,
hope so. But yeah, like Freddie Mercury, Elton John, the Rob Halford, the lead singer of Judas Priest, which that's a big one because Judas Priest was like a
I see,
man's
I
band,
didn't
you
know
know what I
that.
mean? Yeah, Rob Halford
Yeah,
is,
no,
yep.
honestly, I did not know that.
And
That is fascinating to learn.
it's funny because a lot of my a lot of my male gay friends have always joked about how funny it is that people didn't realize that Rob Halford was gay because to the gay community they were all like yes, 100% obvious, like that's a huge and
To them, there
in
was
the
it was
metal
totally
community,
obvious,
yeah,
basically.
in the
Eh?
metal community people were just like, yeah, he's hardcore, he's metal, he's, like they had songs like Hellbent for Leather and like it's just one of those things that people had no idea, and especially in that kind of um, fan base community of like heavy metal, it's not something you think people would be super open about. And when he came out, the community, I mean, I'm sure there were people that didn't support, because there will always be those ugly people, but the community, like the metal
Yeah,
community really welcomed him as a gay man in the heavy metal community, which is crazy because you don't really think of those people as being like, initially, you don't think of those people being like super tolerant of people that are different from them. But it just goes to show that,
yeah,
like, that kind of stuff, if you just keep an open mind and you're not a closed off person, like you said, they're just people. They're just people. And like,
yeah.
people are afraid of what they don't understand. And that's, I think, the biggest thing about representation is just not only just for people to understand that they're just like everyone else, but for those people to feel seen. I think that is a huge factor of it. 'Cause like I have gay friends in my life that their family doesn't know that they're gay. And
Oh
it's
wow.
heartbreaking for them. You know what I mean? Like they deal with it, they do what they have to do,
Yeah.
whatever. But and to me, I'm like, how do they not know? And he's like, yeah, they just don't know. Like they don't know. It's crazy to me that people have to contend with that in this day and age. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, as a cis white guy, like, I don't understand what that's like. So to me, like, learning more about the experiences of
Hmm.
people in the community is important to learn because, like you said, it shows what they have to go through and the things that they do that we don't see.
Hmm. Hmm. It really
And then
is.
so, by like you said, it's being, like you said, being seen is important, so that the more representation that there is out there, the more
Hmm.
comfortable they can feel in being themselves, in coming out, in being safe to say, hey, this is me. Not just the part that I'm showing, but everything about me.
Right, right. And that's the beauty of Pride Month as well. Like I love Pride Month. I love it so much. It's just like it's the best. It's the best month in my opinion. But um I used to work at a adult store years and years ago. I used to manage an adult store. And we did the Pride Festival in June that year. And it was honestly the best time. Like I had the best time. Everyone was amazing and so cool, and it was so much fun, you know, and it's so nice to see people that aren't necessarily in the LGBTQ plus community, like you and I, you know, but are allies of people within the community, and they want to help spread awareness and just yeah, just be allies. It goes a really long way to just be an ally.
Yeah, just be some, and I experienced that at work now too, where there are some people that I know that are gay or and lesbian, and to have them open up to me about that has actually been very, wow, okay, that's kind of cool. But at the same time, I don't like to call myself an ally because I'm the kind of person where I'd rather show it than say it. I'd rather have people recognize that from me rather than me come out and say, hey, I'm a safe person to go to. Rather have them feel and know that I am because of my actions, because of what I do and what I say, other than actually explicitly saying, like, hey, yeah, I'm a safe ally to go to. Like, because anyone can say that.
For sure.
But it's actually showing it, and in that case with representation is great because by putting it in there, and I know some people like there's always the complaints from people when shows and movies put in people from the LGBTQ community, and they'll
Hmm.
be like, oh, they're just pandering to the community. It's just like, well, yeah, I'm that's a good thing though, right? That means that shows that these corporations and companies feel that it is beneficial for them and that culture and is beneficial, that there's enough culture support and enough support for these companies to come out and put representation in there. And
Right.
in that case, and I think I mentioned I posted on threads about this before, where I I don't credit the corporations for the representation that they put in. I credit the LGBTQ community for all the stuff that they've had to go through and all the
Hmm.
pushing that they've had to do to get culture to get to the point where it is cool for a corporation to put representation of the community in their products, in their media. And
Yeah.
so because I mean that kind of thing should be standard. I'm not going to give a corporation credit for putting representation in their movies because that should be standard.
Right.
That's the thing that
Right. You
they
shouldn't be doing
should
it
be doing.
because you shouldn't be doing it because you're like, oh, well, this is a thing now, so we better jump on that. Right. It's not that. It's that it should be represented because it's real life. There are real people out there
Yeah.
dealing with these things. And that's like it reminds me of when the movie Brokeback Mountain came out and
Yes,
it
yes.
was a huge thing. It was huge. And
Yeah.
like I remember so many people saying like, why does it have to be a gay story? And it's like, okay, well that's the problem right there. You're missing the point. It's not it's not just like a quote gay story. It's a love story. And if you're focusing on that aspect of it, you're missing the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which you made a really good point, DJ, when you started kind of talking about like people that you've met in your career and stuff like that. We should probably that's kind of a good segue into our next part if you want to go on to the pick of the week.
Yeah, so our picks of the week, I was actually going to say, hey, we should segue into that. We're going to tell you about some influential people in the LGBTQ plus community. So for my pick, actually someone that, well, I guess you could say I've actually met in person. I actually had part of my class. We had a virtual interview with her because she was a graduate from my broadcasting program. But so today's pick is going to be Shannon Burns. She is a Canadian radio host. She hosts the mid-afternoon show for Virgin Radio in Toronto, which also actually simulcasts at the same time in several other cities in Canada. It's basically a national show on one of the biggest radio stations in Canada. But she's the main radio host there. She's also a podcaster. She's also a huge TikTok influencer with over I think 700,000 followers now on TikTok. But yeah, she's really cool actually. Because the interview we had with her was a couple of months ago, right near the end of the semester, and it was just after she had gone to Hollywood to do some interviews, and she had actually interviewed Beyonce. And she had come back. She had come back, and apparently, what she had done with the interview, she had bagged some of the air during the interview, and then wrote like Beyonce's air, and then actually like posted on, and then ended up having an auction where people were paying money to have the air that
Hilarious.
Beyonce breathed. It was great. It was hilarious. He showed it like during the interview, and it became this big thing too. It was great. But it's pretty cool. So she got her big break in the radio. Like she was in the program in the early 2010s. She did some stuff here in Niagara, and then she moved up to Alberta. Worked in promotions for a bit between Edmonton and Medicine Hat. Then got her big break on a station in Edmonton in 2017. And it was at that point she had been. I was reading a thing where she had kind of been hiding her status as a lesbian for when she was coming up, because she wasn't sure how
Hmm.
that was going to play out, what kind of hate she was going to get. She was still kind of like making her way in the industry, so when it came to things like that, she was kind of vague as far as I was concerned. But I
Hmm.
guess when she finally got her big break in Edmonton, she decided, you know what, she decided to come out publicly as a lesbian at that point, stop hiding it, and it's ended up she's become like I wouldn't say that she's become big because of it, but I think being coming out for her probably helped give her more confidence and be the person that she is now too.
Hmm.
And that's a big thing, and that's almost what I want to do eventually if I get into the radio industry, is do it in a way where I feel that I can be myself in that kind of
Right.
sense. And so like that kind of representation is great because it shows that we're at the point where someone feels safe coming out in a public thing like radio and be like, "Hey, yeah, I'm gay. I'm part of that community," and it's great. So she ended up going to Toronto, working for Chum FM, eventually worked for Virgin Radio where she is now. She won actually the award for Canadian Young Broadcaster of the Year in 2022, and has just recently announced this month that she's going to be going to Paris for the Olympics as part of NBC Universal's Paris Creative Collective.
Oh, wow.
So that's like, yeah, that's
That's a big
huge that
deal.
she, yeah, like going to the Olympics, like wow. But what's great is that it's not so being gay isn't just the thing that she is. She's also does a lot of community stuff too. So she uses her platform and her podcast and TikTok to discuss and promote issues within the LGBTQ community, as well as sexual assault awareness. She's another big thing that she talks about as well, which is very important when it comes to this kind of thing as well,
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's a lot of people taking advantage of the vulnerabilities in within the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and then she also like works with the community directly in a lot of cases in the Toronto area as well. So like it's great that there is someone with that kind of platform and voice, using that platform and voice to help promote and represent the community in a positive, great way.
Yeah, absolutely. She sounds fantastic, honestly.
I hope to eventually meet her in person. That would be really cool.
Yeah, you did get to interview with her, right? It just wasn't an in-person interview.
Yeah, no, it was a virtual kind of thing where she was at her station, like in her station. We were in her classroom, and it was over like a Zoom kind of thing. And so like after it was basically her telling us about her experiences in the radio industry, and then after we would get to ask her questions about what it was like. And so it was
Hmm.
kind of like a personal, like all of us in the class talking with her, and then discussing, like asking questions. It was cool. It was really great.
Nice,
She's a
nice.
really great person to talk to.
Yeah, I will have to we'll put her links in the description and stuff, so I would like to follow her on TikTok as well. Um, my pick is Karamo Brown, which I mentioned Queer Eye earlier because I am obsessed with that show and everyone on it. But um, Karamo is one of the five men that is one of the hosts of Queer Eye. He is a American television host, reality TV personality, podcaster, author, actor, and activist. He does it all. um,
Wow.
so he actually, it's so funny. He got his start in 2004 on MTV's reality show, The Real World, which I was a big
Wow,
fan
that's
of
taking
back
us
in the
back
day.
too.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's still a show, but I think it is, but it was like a life-changing show back in the day. But him being on that show actually made him one of the first openly gay African American men on reality television, which is crazy.
Yeah, because I
Um,
mean, it's one thing to be like gay, but it's also to be an African American and a guy and be gay is there. That's a lot of just
yeah.
it would be hard. I can't imagine. I can't even imagine how hard and all the hate that you'd have to go through.
Yeah, and back then too, like people were not nearly as open
Oh
about it as
no,
they are now.
God,
Like when you think about back
God,
then,
no.
the only other person that really comes to mind for me is RuPaul, who ugh, I love RuPaul, but um but so back to Karamo. He does have his own talk show just titled Karamo. He is the culture counselor lifestyle expert on Queer Eye. Um, Karamo on Queer Eye is the best. He's always the one who comes in and like dives deep into people's issues. He sits down with them and he finds out, like what's going on, and he has these heart to hearts, and it's just tear jerking, and it's so good. He is just a
Aw.
fantastic human being. I'm obsessed with him, honestly. Um, and he is also a big advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. He is actually the co-founder of 6in10.org, which is an organization addressing mental health and self-esteem for individuals affected by HIV. He's a member of the Never Again MSD gun control movement after his high school was actually had actually suffered a fatal shooting in 2018.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
something that he's also a big advocate for. Um, He's a graduate of the Florida A&M University, and he worked as a licensed social worker and psychotherapist for over a decade before he transferred into media. He's one of those
Wow. So
people.
he's got a lot
Yeah.
of real world experience there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's done a lot of things. He's got a lot of feathers in his cap, so to speak. But he's such a great representation, I feel like, for people in the community. And he's really fantastic at like bridging the gap between people that aren't familiar with or aren't comfortable with the LGBTQ plus community and kind of bringing that together. He's really fantastic about that. Um, that's one of the things I love the most about him on Queer Eye is like there was one specific episode that I remember, for example, where like the gentleman that they were making over was just a nice southern straight man, you know. And there's these moments on that show where like he's asking them, the five guys, they call them the Fab Five because they are, and he's asking him questions like, what is okay for me to ask because I'm not familiar, I'm not exposed to anyone in your community. And Karamo does this really amazing job of saying, like, you can ask. You can ask us, like, how do we identify? What are our pronouns? It's okay to ask those questions. And like, he just has this way of really making people comfortable. And I just adore him as a person. He does so much for just the community as a whole and bringing to light a lot of issues that they face. And yeah, he's fantastic. His show is really great. He has a podcast as well. I believe the podcast is also just entitled Karamo. Um, he's like a whole brand
What
at
makes
this
it easy to
point.
find?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I mean, he's just a whole. But yeah, I was gonna say it's easy to find him that way, right?
Mm,
Just
hmm.
Karamo.
Right, everything is just basically Karamo because he's a whole brand. But yeah, he does a lot of great work. The thing with the organization that he does addressing mental health and self-esteem for individuals affected by HIV, that's a huge one. And he is one of the co-founders of that. So yeah, he just does a lot of really great work. And he's just he's a fantastic human being. That's like my favorite thing about him is that he's just a wonderful human. He does so much good. And if you guys haven't watched Queer Eye, you really need to because it is the most wholesome show you've ever seen in your life, and you will absolutely fall in love with
I
it.
might have to watch an episode or two of that then.
It's so
Because
good. It's
honestly, to be perfectly frank, I never knew exactly what the show was about as far as that was. I
hmm
thought I didn't realize it was that kind of thing where it was the queer people talking with straight people and like because
hmm
that actually like that is definitely like up my alley as far as with me being a cis white guy. That would definitely be like I would love to watch that just to get more in of seeing
Yeah,
what that's like in that kind of sense and getting more of an idea of what the community is like.
yeah. There's actually an episode that just aired, I think, within the last two seasons. I forget which, but they help a trans man who has just transitioned into being a trans man. He had his top surgery, and the episode kind of starts with that, just right out of the gate. And it's interesting because even the one guy that's in the Fab Five, his name is Tan, he's like the fashion expert. Um, Tan even
Mhm.
admits to the guy that they're helping, he says, like, I don't really know many people in the trans community specifically. And like he even admits as a gay man, he's like, I did not understand the importance of like top surgery or bottom surgery for people in the trans community. And like he's like, I always kind of wondered, like, is it really worth it to go through that extensive surgery? And just like seeing the way it affected that man when he got his top surgery was amazing. It was so eye-opening. And it's
Aww.
just it's that's why that show is so great because like it makes you kind of see things in a light that you may not normally be exposed to. And so it's just really great. And even they as people in the community and gay men are like, these are things that people need to understand that like we can always learn more about and be supportive of as well. So yeah, it's a really great show.
Aww. Well,
But
that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Inks and Lattes. Yeah, thanks so much for hanging us with and listening to us here. We'll be here every Wednesday as part of the Dripping Creativity podcast, hosted by the amazing Chris Corvan. So please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already.
and if you want more information about the Creative Coffee Cafe and how you can get involved, visit the website creativecoffeecafe.com for more info, and the sign up form for the Discord can be found there as well. And then lastly, if you have any news or projects that you would like to share, send it over to submit@creativecoffeecafe.com. And if we can, we'll get it on the next episode. But thanks again for hanging out with us and tuning into Inks and Lattes, where we're spilling the ink and dishing out drinks.
See you next week.